Hi, my name is Kenton, and over there we have our panelists from left to right, Tony, Jeff, and Thomas. And the name of the panel is 1,000 Words. It's a panel about art in manga, because I don't really watch a lot of anime, but I do read a lot of manga, and as I read it, I bookmark a lot of pages that I think are cool, and I'd like to talk about them. So first, to set up what style I'd like to have for this, I have an image to show my panelists. So here, we have a scene from a Korean comic, and I'd like you guys to tell me what's going on in this picture.
Okay. What is the sports, guys?
First, it's got to be volleyball, for sure.
Does it? That's pretty
It's
low.
pretty low, man.
No, that's volleyball.
And does that look like a volleyball to you?
Yeah,
When was the last time you played volleyball and that was like chest?
every time.
I don't
That's
know.
not terrible.
You're a liar. So I think what's happening is this looks like a foot volleyball,
Absolutely.
and they're yelling at her because she clearly can't kick good enough, and the other team, the guy with the moon face, the just dot mouth, is just yelling at her as well too, saying we won. And the other guy down here that's pointing at you is obviously very furious, saying you stink.
That's pretty close. Like, yeah, the girl on the right, she got hit in the face there because they don't know how the sport works or really how to play soccer or anything. But I like this image because it shows you a lot of things, even without any of the words. You can tell, like, pretty much figure out what the sport is, how it's being played. Like, you can assume that they're like kicking the ball over because it's definitely not volleyball.
No, that's volleyball. What is with the guy's scared face, the announcer? Like
He's a guy they found on the street.
he's very afraid.
They just roped him into being, yeah.
Fantastic.
So, I like art that is evocative of an image without actually having to have any words. You can see with my fancy de-texting technology of drawing a white box over them that I can block out the words pretty easily. And so I like to think of art in two different ways. You either get like the heavy style where something just looks cool, or you get functional art. This is a good example of functional art because it tells you a picture, or it tells you a story. And another good example of functional art is shonen. These are my stage notes, by the way. I find it more interesting if I just leave them up. So, what do you guys think about the characters, like the main characters in shonen manga? So I think there's two separate types, like the fun Kool-Aid haired ones, like these, and the non-Kool-Aid haired, the black haired kids. So,
What did you call it? Kool-Aid hair?
Kool-Aid hair. Is that not Kool-Aid hair?
Probably right.
People in the world, well, not pink hair, but people in the world have orange hair.
Okay.
Yes, yellow.
And that would be the guy in the right, yeah.
What's Dragon Ball Z then though? Because they go black hair and Kool-Aid hair.
Right, Dragon Ball Z gets the best of both worlds that way, because you can just flip whenever you want. So why do you think the creators of these characters draw them the way they do? Like, why make them so eye-catching?
Maybe just be iconic. I don't know.
Take the microphone when you're talking.
To be iconic.
Iconic of what?
I stand out from the average Joe. Like when I think of these characters, Luffy, the guy from Hunter x Hunter, and I believe that's Kid Goku. Yes, he's got a tail.
Yeah.
It stands out more than like your school anime where everything kind of looks generic and the uniforms are different. These guys are very vivid. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're very iconic.
Right, and I think that, like, they also design them with cool accessories, like Luffy's hat, because you can, as crass as it sounds, sell merchandise that way.
Like it's a big identifier to like connect with that show. It's easy to do that.
Right, and then, so another thing that's cool, I think, about the different shonen manga is that they've been running forever, a lot of them. And then you get things like, this is from pretty much the first chapter of Naruto, you can see, like, the art is kind of rough. It looks really like a kid. And then throughout the series, you get to, like, the end fights, and he looks like a young adult. You can see the transition of the art and how the characters are drawn throughout the series, and just, like, see the trials and tribulations when your series has been running so long. And same with Bleach, where you have fun, angular-faced Ichigo on the left. From really on, he looks kind of terrifying. But they really soften him up when he's in the right to make him like a more likable protagonist. And okay, so this is another shonen manga, Gamaran. And this is every face that he makes in the last chapter. Tell me what emotion he's feeling, because to me it looks like there's exactly one.
Anger all the time.
Right. Even in like the bottom right where he's crying through his clenched teeth, like sometimes Shonen doesn't know really what it's doing, and it's just like, this guy's mad. I'm gonna draw him mad because I can't draw him any other way, and this is all I've got. So now, one of my favorite manga types, sports. So this is an early scene from Prince of Tennis, and what's going on in this panel?
Someone's making a dive to hit a ball, and they are barely hitting it over the net.
Right. This is a triumph of the guy on the right who's finally, like, probably winning a match point because everybody's super excited that he gets a drop shot right over the net. So Prince of Tennis is weird because of how they change what's happening in the story. They go from the most exciting moment of a match being, oh, this guy barely got it over the net, to, oh, this guy hit a ball that hit the ground and doesn't bounce anymore, so it just runs straight and no one can possibly return it. And you can just see in the art that this guy has clearly no idea what he's doing there, and the ball just runs right past him. You can use the artwork to evoke, like, on the white side, the white part on the right side shows that, like, he didn't know what was coming pretty much. Like, he just sees nothing in front of him and the ball's just gone. And someone tell me what's happening here. I left the text in this one because it's pretty great.
Yeah, so right here we've got a guy that was so surprised by a hit, he actually got hit right in the face. Usually pretty preventable, but clearly it was very unexpected that he would hit the Duke home run at this point in the story.
Right, and okay, so, and then you can see in the left panel, he went flying. This is not how tennis works. I don't know if you've ever seen tennis being played, but in terms of function, I feel like this page is really useful because it shows off like the power creep that's going on in the story where a man can hit a man into the air, probably into the stands. And also, you can see like the little logo on his sleeve that's like the Japanese flag. That indicates that this is past like the stage in the manga where like they're fighting for their teams and they've merged and become the Japanese super team and they're fighting the rest of the world. And that's also indicated in the text where it says he's giving the Germans a warm welcome. So you can tell that he's just beating up on a German kid. And then it goes even a little bit, a couple steps further where this happens. Someone tell me what this is. This guy's from Russia, for the record.
Well, if you wouldn't have said he was from Russia, I wouldn't have known.
That says it in the top right.
Okay. I'm gonna pretend like I didn't see that. It's a samurai trying to play tennis.
But what's happening in the bottom left?
Okay, so he hit the ball back. It's a decoy ball which releases another smaller ball, and it's a trick for the opponent.
Nope, that's a regular tennis ball.
What?
Yep. This manga goes in places.
No, you're completely wrong. Clearly he's got like a nesting doll thing, where his Russian is so strong that he's able to hit a ball reminiscent of a nesting doll. And he hits it at such a speed that it appears to shrink as it gets closer.
That's actually how they explain it in the manga. They do tricks where there's like disappearing balls with some crazy like, oh, we hit it with the corner of the racket so it just vibrates in such a way that no one can see it. I highly recommend Prince of Tennis, if you couldn't tell. But some of the art, this is just more like a style page versus like a function page, because this is just a cool thing to look at and not really like useful content for anyone, I would say.
How does it compete with the anime?
I have not watched the anime. Okay, so here we go to some Hajime no Ippo, and someone tell me like what's going on here. I think this is a really good functional page. Like the art is great.
It looks like he's getting beat up, kind of, because he can't land a hit, because the guy on the bottom, like on the bottom panel, shows him dodging. At least that's what I think that is. And on the top, it shows him just getting nailed. And so it's him kind of not on the ropes, but not doing so well.
Does it? It looks like he's swaying out of the way in the top. No one's getting hit.
I think you were confused because you see the damage on his face, but that's clearly from earlier in the fight. Look. I mean, only one punch happened with his entire body. There's more damage there. It's showing that it looks like it's coming to a comeback story where his character has gotten more serious after taking a couple hits. And now he's got a serious face on, and after swinging, you can see the emotion in his face that he's coming with like a vengeance.
Yeah, there's not even any like words in this page that would say it. It's just you see this and you know exactly what's happening. And then you go to another page where, well, things turn a little bit. And now what's going on?
they're both being hit at the same time. One's coming down, one's coming up. It's a simultaneous hit between the two.
Right. Yeah. This is a really cool way to show like a simultaneous exchange, where they're done dodging and they're just beating the crap out of each other at this point. And then eventually, you know, because it's a shonen manga, you get this guy. Tell me about this guy.
He is loving his victory. He is screaming to the heavens about how good he is.
Right. He also has 3 belts on. So what do the 3 belts mean?
He's the champion of all the classes.
3 classes. Yep. And what do you think like those scars on his chest mean? This one's tough.
Scars on his chest.
The scars.
Oh, scars. Oh boy.
He fought a bear.
I was going to say he fought Vega. Is that what
Pretty
he
much.
fought Vega?
Like you can just see the intensity of emotion with like the crowd's fist pumping in the bottom, and it's just a triumph of him beating up another guy
Or a bear.
or a bear. And now we go to some contrast. Where? So this is a horror manga, kind of. It's a horror shonen manga. And what does it look like going on in this scene?
So this is the classic horror frame. Where you got a child or a dog basically alerting you there's something supernatural going on. And mom's like, wait, what? That sounds crazy. But of course, kids and dogs and horror, any horror genre, they just know what's going on.
Right, and any guesses as to what could possibly be on the other side of this door? I know it's tough. You can give up if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on it.
Okay.
You can tell something horrible there.
What if I told you it was a cockroach?
Oh, I was gonna guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's scary.
Not like a cockroach.
So you go from like all of the white space here that indicates just like normal people living their everyday life, and then you go to like the pitch black of the unknown alien, or cockroach in this case, although the cockroach kind of is an afro, that's besides the point. And you can just see there's no like emotion showing in the thing's eyes, there's pure black. It's just really unsettling. And that's contrast to, so this is a really good example of like more computer generated art, because there's not really shading here, you just, like, the colors are filled in digitally, I'm pretty sure. And then you go to the most hand-drawn thing possible, Berserk, where you can just see the intensity and like the fury on Guts' face as he gets more consumed by his armor. You can see on his chin like the tendrils are reaching for his mouth, to be fully engulfed by the darkness that's coming towards him. And, okay, so this, what's going on here? And would you argue that it's more like a functional piece or just like a style? It's something cool to look at.
I'm going to say it's a functional piece. They're looking at into like, it looks like they're going to invade his castle in his town, or going to a town to finish a quest of some type.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, they're just going to set an ambush in the town. This is Claymore, it's another horror manga. It's really similar to Berserk. And then compare that image of like that town in the background, you can see that it has like the high walls that keep out some kind of enemy, versus another scene from Berserk, when Guts and companions get to this sweet treehouse, and you can see the fairy in the corner. Everything just looks like light and whimsical and like covered in fog, so you don't really know what's about to happen. And you can't, like, it's hard to predict what's going to happen next in Berserk because of the art. Everything's just so like cloudy and not exact and defined, like in shonen manga where you get a lot of hard lines and not subtle artwork. So moving on to Spooky, where, okay, this is, teach me about the cockroach.
Looks like he's in some kind of lab, he's locked up, and it's an evolution chain from a regular cockroach from an experiment they did. The guy is currently like kind of looking at him for possible changes in his whatever they're testing for. So he's like locked up.
Right, yeah, and this piece just shows you like how you can portray how the cockroach evolved, where it just goes from cockroach, cockroach, cockroach to murder monster in the space of sending it to Mars and letting it grow there for a while. Which, that's not really a spoiler, that happens in the first chapter of the thing. And then, okay, so then, this happens when some humans go to Mars. And what's going on here?
So this is the humans doing the classic human thing to fight the unknown monsters, where they wear some kind of exosuit, I'm guessing, which gives them exceptional strength to pulverize the monster, but really it's more than they were expecting to have control over. So they kind of send them through their own wall. Since this is in space,
Right.
I'm assuming they don't want to break walls open. So I'm assuming it's more powerful than they expected.
They can breathe on Mars. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
And also, if you see, like, on the guy, top of the guy's head, it's hard to see, but he has antenna. It's not an exosuit. They're splicing humans with different bugs to try to combat the cockroaches in different ways.
Is that a praying mantis?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, it gets weird sci-fi-y. But you can, like, I like this image because there's a really good use of speed lines. You can just see, like, how he's charging up on the right, where the speed lines are going to the point of impact. And he's punched the roach clear across the room into a wall and through it. And, okay, this is a different type of horror manga. This is Gantz. And what's going on here? So there's a bunch of people.
Yeah, it looks like there's a bunch of people running away from whatever. I don't know if that's like military or something, because there's a guy with a gun and standing in the back that's kind of threateningly like holding it. And there's clearly a monster kind of hanging out right there. So maybe it's people running away from the scene where these guys come to fight this monster to take care of a problem, like the problem.
They're all trying to fight the monster, but I like this image because it illustrates the scale of Gantz and how it goes up. This is really early in the manga. They're essentially like an interstellar task force trying to fight monsters coming to Earth. And during the course of it, the monsters kind of just keep getting bigger to show that they're scarier and stronger until you get stuff like this, where they really show how aliens can look by giving you like the contrast of the guy on the left where it's got a cat face and a man's head and stomach. And that's just like, how do you cope with that or deal with that or fit that into your whole reality? It might be. There's a pretty good link in, yeah. I like that one too.
Is this so this scene, like you said, you're supposed to just show the severity of these aliens and how spooky I guess they are?
Yeah, it's just a sense of scale. Because like you see people in the frame and they're like ants compared to the thing, and no one knows how they're gonna end up fighting. Like, I think good art is like a matter of contrast, where you can show difference, like either the difference over time of how your characters are evolving, or like the difference in size and like how fearsome something would be. And what else do we have? Okay, so this is a scene from Claymore where they keep the enemy shrouded in mist, so they don't reveal what it looks like for multiple chapters, and it's just building tension. Like a lot of manga do this, where you like in the first chapter, a bad guy is introduced, you just see like the outline of it in the mist. Or like they're standing on a rooftop looking down, and you just hear them talk. You don't get to know what they are, so you just get to think in your head, which I think is a lot scarier than actually showing it to you. You just don't know what's going to happen. And okay, what's going on in the left and then the right? These are two different pages.
I'm gonna start with the right.
Yeah. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing the fashion manga, right to left. It seems like those guys are two villains.
Nope. Those are the good guys in this manga.
Well, I would have never guessed that. They seem so diabolical. Jeez. Well, the little guy's a smart guy, and the other guy was a butler to him. Unless they're both.
Nope.
Nothing.
So I like this. It's like one of the trickster or con manga, where it's a lot of like reversal of how you expect it's going to go, which is why they can get away with having the main character look absolutely terrifying, and like he would just scare the pants off of any like bad guy who's trying to oppose him. And then what do we have on the left? Like this is just like a classic horror scene, I think.
It looks like it is a man getting ready to shoot at someone. We don't know exactly what he's shooting at, but he's using night vision kind of goggles or like futuristic.
Right, so you can see that it's dark out. That's an easy way to indicate that.
Yep. And then something is actually coming up through the ground, like possibly a ghost or something, like a poltergeist, to grab him through the floor or something like that.
Yeah, and it's just like a classic way to do horror in manga, where, again, that's a good guy about to grab, but whatever. So, people who go against Usokui, who is a guy fighting in the underground for justice, they end up like this, which I think is a really good abstraction of like the absolute terror of figuring out who this guy was. It's just a lot of curvy lines, and is like can't handle this right now.
So this is the guy who's seeing the reveal of
He's
Monty.
not even, no, this is the guy who's learning the name of the good guy.
Alright.
He's just that terrifying with no, like, you don't need any words to figure that out, like how just scary something is that is warping his perception of reality. So then, a lot of times in the horror manga, you get cool reveals. So the words don't matter, they're all in Italian, subtitled in Japanese, because, you know, they're in Italy, but that's beside the point. So we've got a guy, he's just talking, whatever. That girl is addressing herself, and then you've got, on the bottom, you've got the little girl who is just crying based on what she's seeing. So what kind of reveal do you think could happen in this?
I'm feeling like a Sixth Sense kind of reveal.
That's, yeah,
Where
you're not
they
wrong.
seem like normal people,
Right.
but the girl's seeing them and she's totally frightened by what they're doing. So I'm thinking there's some kind of creature, some kind of ghost.
There's zombies.
apparition. Oh, okay.
So yeah, the guy on the left is the guy in the other frame who was talking. And when the zombies are conversing with each other, they still think that they're humans. Because they've been transformed in some way. The manga hasn't even gotten to explaining how, which I think is pretty cool that they're like a couple hundred chapters deep and you still don't know what's actually going on. But like the contrast between, oh, it's just a normal guy talking, and then, man, something's going real wrong here is just great. And like the girl on the ground who was dressing herself doesn't even have most of her leg. And so sometimes shonen tries to get a little spooky. And then you get things like this, where you get the fun generic shonen faces, all the eyes are going through their hair, whatever. It's hard to draw the eyes normally with covered in hair. But there's a big bird who's attacking them, and they're just facing the unknown, which is just a bunch of birds. But shonen, the problem with it, I think, is that the art, you have to make the main character more powerful than whatever he's fighting. So you get this guy who's able to throw off and defeat a whole bunch of giant birds at once. And I don't know, that's just like, if this was like, say, Berserk or Claymore or something, he would just have been grounded in a pulp at this point. And it's just a difference in art style and difference in how you carry yourself. So, okay, One Punch Man is fantastic because right now there's an anime, so it's getting really popular, but it started off as a manga that's drawn by the artist, the author itself. And then you get images like this. What is this? This is two separate pages, right and left. Or no, I guess left and right. I'm sorry about that.
Well, it's different colored clouds that are around it, so it looks like it's some kind of, I don't want to say like weather thing, I'm not sure, but it's going over a city, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the hell's happening at the bottom right compared to all the, like the city just disappears and now there's like mountains.
Okay, so if I told you that this is a spaceship that's destroying the city below it, would you believe me?
Oh, that's fire and explosions.
That's what I was gonna get.
It's very abstract. So then, someone has been redoing all of the art for this manga, and that's what's being turned into the anime. Because as you can tell, this is not what the anime looks like. But this is that same scene. It goes scene for scene with the original, which I think is really cool and pretty much the inspiration for this panel. Like the difference in how art can make or break what you're trying to show someone. So you can see like the spaceship showing up and then destroying the city, but you can actually tell that it's a spaceship and what's actually happening. It's just firing straight down. And another set of that is, well, what's going on? I have the original and then the redo on the right. Like, would you be able to figure out that that's what's supposed to be happening on the right from what's on the left?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Black blobs are confusing. They could be anything.
That's true.
And on the right, you can kind of see that some sort of bomb. And the ship on the right is really hard to find. There's the other one, it could be a thunderstorming cloud.
Yeah, like, in terms of how art impacts what you're trying to say to people, you need to have some level of, we'll say, confidence to be able to get your ideas across and let people know what you're saying.
It also helps that the facial reaction from the guy in both of the panels is a little more defined, because on the left you can't even tell what kind of emotion he's supposed to have at the top right, really, versus where he has this like mouth agape and surprised and like in like awe of how ridiculously powerful the aliens are. And in the bottom left, it's kind of like him. Yeah, you have the sweat, but like you can see him more angry and more visibly shaken in the one on the right.
Right, yeah. Once you get like enough artistic ability, you can actually like show what you're trying to show instead of just being like a rough sketch like on the left. And a third example of that is a more comedic scene where you have a guy who's just spitting out his drink. But on the left, I don't know. He looks like, and both of them, he's sweating a ton. So he's clearly in some kind of distress. But like, I do kind of like the left more for like a comedy setting because you can have a lot more raw artwork where it doesn't really matter exactly what's happening. You can use the abstract of like his juice box flying out of the frame. And you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, it looks like he got too excited on the left and he actually tried to consume the entire juice box. Not just from the straw, but the entire box.
That's true.
When he
That is
tried
kind of
to, it just came right back out. But
Right.
I like how his chin overlaps on the right frame.
Yeah, it's way more defined than on the left.
Yeah, you can really tell he's having some kind of struggle.
And even on the right, you have the fun snot dripping out of his nose. It's just, it's more visceral, and there's a reason why they chose that version to make it to the anime. And so now, jokes. Visual gags. So these are two different scenes. And on the right you have a girl, the classic, oh, she's not from around here, or maybe she's an alien or something, and she doesn't know how to eat. So the guy's trying to teach her how to use a fork, and she picks up her spaghetti and then drops it right on her cheek. It's a classic visual gag. You don't need any words to explain what's going on. But on the left, would you guys be able to figure out what the joke is there?
It's supposed to be awkward where the man is the submissive one getting hit on? He's blushing?
Right, yeah, the main character on the right, like he had rescued the old guy who's like starting to fall in love with him now awkwardly, and he's just coming to terms with his feelings in that frame. Which, it doesn't take a lot of setup, and like just the blushing kind of gives it away. But simple visual gags work really well in like shonen style manga where you just get like, okay, here's frame by frame, this is exactly what you see, and this is what you get. And this is two frames. This goes left to right because it's Korean. So you have a girl who's drinking her juice, and then what would make it come out of her nose?
He said some comment about her that was revealing him a secret that she had at some point. And so the other person is like laughing and smiling about it, and she's like, like surprised that he would say that in comparison.
Pretty much. Well, no, actually, it's the girl who said straight out to the guy that she likes him.
Oh.
Like that the girl who's spitting up liked him.
Oh, okay.
So she's just saying, yo, this is exactly the setup for the joke. I'm going to tell you the punchline and everything. But you can see it even without showing anything in it. And next, an important part of art, again, is contrast. Like how I like to contrast just a single word onto a blank page to show this is a transition in thought. What happens when you can't see in a manga? How do you show that? You show them in entire black. So what's happening here?
It looks like he lost the game.
Nope, he's in the middle of the game. So what happened is, through Prince of Tennis logic, he has gotten his ability to see and all of his other senses stripped away from him. And this is the pitch black inside of his mind, where he's trying to reach for the ball to serve, but he can't find it. So eventually he just like stumbles around and picks it up, and he's trying to figure out what to do, how he can continue to play tennis.
I'd like to say I find it great that someone would continue to try and play tennis when suddenly they can't.
I mean, he's in a doubles match. You can't just give up on his partner. So then you get to the next page where this is what happens after he picks up the ball. What happens there?
He misses the serve.
Yeah, he completely whips the serve, and he's just there shaking. You can see how frustrated and scared he is, and he doesn't know what's going on because there's nothing else in the frame other than him, and it's pretty much just indicative of the internal struggle that he's facing. And some other manga. So this is a two-frame, like it's a full-page spread, where the artist decided that I'm only going to draw the character, and everything else will just be pitch black because either A, I hate the printers, and I want them to waste as much ink as possible, or he's trying to say something. And what could that be?
Loneliness.
Does he look lonely? He looks like you can't really see it, but he's like holding his fingers and it looks like he's concentrating on something. So why would a character in a manga do that?
Is he powering up? That's what I'm gonna pretend.
So do you remember like a lot of manga do like where you're trying to focus all of your senses because you can't rely on one of them? So you just draw inside yourself and like focus on sound and smell and everything. That's what this is showing. It's just he's pulling into himself. And then you get what happens after that, where he's just trembling with trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm not going to show the punchline of this one, but it might be that he listens and hears an audio cue and then figures out exactly what's going on. Because, you know, that's kind of how this works. You're just like trying to figure out, okay, where's the sound coming from? I need to focus and I can't use my eyes in this situation. And I really like when they do that, where they just show you, okay, there's nothing here but the character, and that's all you get. So you think about why. Like, in a lot of fighting manga, you have like the main character near like the end where he gets sucked into a blank space and maybe like his love interest is rescuing him, or he finds some magical power up through the power of love. But he's in like a blank white space until he gets there. And that just shows, that's the laziest way to show internal struggle, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know. So, okay. Sometimes you just need some style and you want to see something that looks cool. You guys have all read this, so someone explain to me what's going on.
So, in this story, this is kind of like this old crazy gambler man who suddenly realizes he has a child. And it kind of basically shakes up his world. He's like this skeezy old guy who like does anything to win at gambling or whatever he's doing in life. But suddenly he sees this child, and now everything is, you get freaking fairies in the frame, in the field of flowers. It's kind of a fundamental shift in how he's viewing his own life.
But would you have known that just by looking at this page in a vacuum?
In a vacuum, it looks like he found this child.
Right.
Rather than
You can use your art to mislead your audience,
Yes.
who's just coming into this page and say, why is this guy cross-eyed in a field of flowers holding a child? It's a little bit strange. And then Gamblefish likes to, this is from Gamblefish, by the way, I highly recommend it, because you get pages like, well, this. So, what's going on here? I like this page a lot.
What it looks like is, so you can see the characters in the top right are like soulless at this point, and suddenly they seem to be passing out, I'm going to assume, by the picture, into what appears to be Barack Obama's arms. And everyone is just cheering. Everyone is really excited.
Yeah, because it's a change we can believe in. And I left the text because, it just shows that their bodies are being restored somehow by the power of the American flag and the Obama that's wrapping them up. So, if you want a nice palate cleanser where you just see some stuff and none of it makes any sense, give this a read. It's definitely worth it. But, sometimes it gets bad and art doesn't do what it should be doing. And, a lot of shonen falls into the trap of I don't know how to make faces portray the emotion that I think they should be at this point. So name the emotion that's on the right character and then the left character.
Emotions are intensity and more intensity.
This is a tearful reunion. They're finding each other and figuring out that they're like long-lost childhood friends after a significant absence. And I just don't understand how any of this, how someone thought this was a good idea. That this was art that they were proud of and that they wanted to show this to the world.
They were trying to do the tearful thing, but it looks more like sweat.
She has it on her nose, so I'm pretty sure it's sweat. And then another page from this manga. I just want to show you how it's really hard to draw faces sometimes when you only have blank, vacant staring as your expression. Like in this frame where everybody's just kind of cranky and staring, now everybody's slightly shocked and staring because their eyes are wider. What do you think is happening here?
I think this guy, whoever this is, because you can see a guy on the bottom with something wrapped up, it looks like maybe another person. It looks like he captured that person and he brought him in front of this board of people, for whatever reason, they might have interest in this person that he captured.
Is it interest though? They all look, would you say that they're surprised?
Yeah, but I feel like they have some kind of like reason to care about the character that he has brought forward.
Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna spoil it, but nope. So, again, if you want to have a style that is useful and appealing, you need to have a function that your art is trying to show. Where this, I don't think the artist knew what he was trying to do, and it doesn't come across in the emotions of any of the characters that that's what he's trying to do. Which brings me to like my broader point. I think I'm out of images pretty much. But how do you guys feel about like, what do you think makes art good? Like just in general, does it have to have like some aesthetic appeal, or can it just be like this art moves the story along, I can figure out what's going on with no like outside knowledge and just see it with no words and then I know what's happening? Like, how do you feel?
I'm more content driven. I'm not a big art guy. Rough for me to articulate what I want to say, but I guess at some point, like when you show me these blank panels, it's kind of like a revelation, and realizing that without words.
We have the technology to go back. Yeah.
I guess looking within myself to see that art does matter. Because I've seen some panels without text, and it's difficult to see what's going on. But then you've shown us some very high quality ones, and
I feel like art is very important when it comes to manga and anime, just because you can kind of get into the aesthetic of the show as well as the story, and it can kind of, as you said, and proved through this panel, it can portray a lot of information by just looking at what's going on in the scene. I feel like we need to have a style that is, I don't want to say unique, but I do like a style that's a little more your own, but can convey things properly and keep it within like a boundary. So once you get to the point where you're like same facing, or you have such ridiculous faces like the cross-eyed guy from Gamblefish, at that point you just don't, like it just doesn't make any sense. Like it loses all meaning.
Yeah, I think it's all a matter of kind of balancing the form versus function of it. I guess I think of a manga, probably, I don't read too much, but like Dance I've read a little bit of, but that's very much, it seems like, form over function, where Gantz loves using dark spaces in the art and kind of like gigantic, scary monsters to really create like an emotion, and you're like, that's terrifying. There's Abraham Lincoln coming out of that guy's chest. That's a little bit on the nose maybe, but other scary things, like there's a monster made out of nude bodies in that manga, where it kind of just elicits emotion from you, but sometimes it's kind of hard to tell what's going on, because it loves using black space so much that, even in this example, it's kind of hard to tell, are they running towards it to fight it, are they running away from it because they're horrified, it's a little bit hard to tell. And I feel like that's a trap that it sometimes falls into. But on the other hand, obviously, like what is it? That's horrifying. What's even going on? It kind of like elicits a fear in you, a strange fear of nude bodies with dead presidents coming out of it. But still, it serves that function. But in terms of plot, it doesn't tell you a whole lot. So I guess my preferred art is sometimes you have to find some kind of balance between that, like emotional aspect that you're getting out of it, the emotions they're trying to portray, and also the story that they're trying to tell, and trying to find somehow a balance between those two things.
Right, yeah. One Punch Man is like the best way to show that difference, because the art is really inscrutable in the original, because the author is just like sketching it out for someone else to redraw in the future. And my final question to you guys is, do you think the art matters differently for anime and manga? Like, how does animation come into it? Like how the characters move and how, like what kind of, like walking, even just like making a character walk, does that add something that manga doesn't?
I feel like it's a lot easier to portray something like moving and stuff like that in anime just because you don't have to have multiple panels for it. Like here you can kind of see where, you know, he's running or whatever. I'm sure there's another scene right after this where there's another like person running, or you know, they continue to show that so that way the reader can kind of grasp that yes, they are running, like it's happening, everyone's running. Whereas in an anime you can kind of get a whole shot of like everyone all running at the same time and you can see them moving versus just a picture of some people who are standing still because you know you can't show that.
That's what speed lines are for. The horizontal lines mean you're going fast.
So in this scene though, if you were to zoom way out and look at the entirety of the crowd like they do on the bottom, like let's say they took it from a bird's eye view instead, you couldn't really see people running. You would just see like almost dots on the floor at that point.
Right, yeah, if you pull out and do like a bird's eye view, like you can do different camera shots in anime basically.
Yes, it's a lot more flexible with what you can do.
Any other thoughts from our panelists?
No.
I think blurred lines are a good example of kind of story overform, where you can kind of tell, they just help to show what the character's doing, where they're going, rather than adding much to the scene. Like you're basically, look at this, you're blacking out the whole background. Like all you care is there's a character running in some direction.
Yeah, and then like the next panel you can just show, oh, he got here, you can tell that he was running before.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have to bother like showing, okay, these are all the steps he took to get over here.
Right, it's just kind of like, it's almost like a cheat.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's efficient. Maybe that'd be not a cheat, that's unfair, but an efficient way of showing an action.
How do you feel about anime that takes stylistic form after manga? So like it kind of emulates the manga-esque look of its characters and stuff like that. You know, like a sketchier, like kind of sketched lines and that kind of stuff.
So you mean like FLCL? Which
Yeah,
is
that.
basically an animated manga?
Yeah, that or like Usagi Drop or Ping Pong. Just like kind of sketchier lines, just more like raw. I don't know. If you want to call it crude, I don't know, but how do you feel about that?
So like more raw, like that's like the difference between like the One Punch Man versus like the newer One Punch Man, where they, let's see, how do I phrase this? You add another layer of audience that will come in when you have like tight production values. You just spend the time and the care to make this look good so that it's appealing to people's eyes, instead of just having to rely on your content to carry it. And a lot of anime, I think, falls into the trap of this is too pretty looking and we don't have to care about the story or even try to make a story. And then you end up with like a K-On! Where it's just like things happening in somewhat like quick succession, where you're just putting a bunch of visual gags and a bunch of visual clutter, and you don't need to like think about any of the content or like making characters that matter. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, it all depends on what you go to an anime for, if you want to talk about anime specifically. Because there are some anime that I can think of, like Hyoka has some really, really good looking art at certain points, and the story's kind of like you said for K-On!, like not nonsensical, but just kind of like meandering along through this plot that doesn't really matter. But everything in it just looks over the top, like there's like very high detail and high like care taken to kind of craft these scenes that come out to be just ridiculous and like gorgeous. And I don't know, I think like it depends what you're trying to do with your story. If you want to show off your art, and if you want to show like a style, like your style, like you know your style for everything, then yes, I think it's cool, and they can definitely have a good anime with art, like with just art pushing it pretty far. But I think it just depends on what you're trying to shoot for.
The question for you.
Yep.
In manga, did you ever see where like something they can do in like anime, specifically this one scene with in Ippo, where Ippo versus Jason in the rookie tournament, they can convey that it's constantly it's uppercuts versus hooks.
Right.
And they can rinse and repeat like 13 or 14 times. But in a manga, have you ever seen it where it's like they just, I don't want to say reuse an image, but keep doing the same thing over and over. I've seen in like Ippo where they show somebody dodging and they show like multiple forms or kind of like some kind of.
Right, like when they're illustrating the Dempsey roll, you just see like the infinity symbol and then like Hippo's face on various points of it to show that he's in rapid motion. Like it takes a lot of work to make something look alive and moving, I think. And like using after images is like a good way to do that, where you show like, okay, he was here and then he was here and like he dodged really fast. Like even in the ones that I have here, you can see like where the guy on the bottom is swaying down.
Mhm.
You can see like on the top, like you can see a little bit of his head where it was. It's like how fast he had to get out of the way to dodge the punch. Like, you can do it. It's just it takes a lot more care and time, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, question.
I wonder if it seems like anime has a benefit in that it can communicate ideas through motion, where manga can't. And manga has a benefit of being able to show or communicate ideas through more detail in the frame and more subtlety because the reader will have the time to take it in. Whereas with an anime, the frame is there for a second and it's gone, so you might not be able to communicate, like make that picture as detailed or subtle.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like how long each frame will sit on your eyes, and you can just have a manga open forever if you really want, and just stare at it until you get all the intricacies of the details to come in. And at this point, I don't have a ton more, but I'd like to plug the podcast that those three guys are on, the Main Character Cast. There's a website that's maincharactercast.com, and again, I'm Kenton. We have Tony, Jeff, and Thomas. And if you guys have any questions, then we're more than willing to take them, so feel free. I have a couple more minutes, I don't know. And if you don't, then I guess I'll wrap it up. Thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you at the next panel that I run. Any questions?